Hey, Punkoutlaw, it's Buddha Gem, and you know, as always, I enjoyed your response, and you know, I mean, I don't think you're speaking for Brain Police, but did you notice the responses from market anarchists? You know, do you see the problem I have with that? I mean, essentially, a guy like Stratovic, or however you say his name, you know, is saying something akin to, well, if it's their property, they can do with it whatever they want. And, you know, for a lot of things, maybe that applies. You know, I don't expect everybody to have a Nintendo system or, you know, necessarily a laptop computer or an iPhone or an iPod, or we're talking about food. You know, like some of the comments, you know, the guys talking about DVD players, and we're talking about food. Okay, you can live without a lot of things. Food's not one of them. And the idea that you should have a right to be able to dump grain into the ocean when there are hungry people, to me, that's just crazy. You shouldn't have that right. I don't care whose property it is. If you've got an apple, and you know, I know market anarchists love apples, and there are hungry people, you should not have the right to go dump those in the ocean. I wish you would have answered the questions a little more directly. That was my only real problem. I mean, in general, I liked it. First off, you know, you don't have to tell me about the state. I mean, we are anarchists. I would think that that's something that we, you know, obviously that is one aspect of our common ground. So, you know, state intervention, the problems of state intervention, I don't really think we need to, you know, beat that dead horse, at least when we're speaking with anarchists. You know, if you're talking to, you know, someone else, by all means, but you don't have to tell me. Healthcare. Now, yeah, I just wanted to, real quick, Nationmaster.com. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's a really great website, tons of great statistical information, and just to give you an idea how retarded the United States of America is, we spend $4,631 per capita. Okay, this is in a nation where roughly in any given year, close to a third of the citizens either don't have medical care or have such high deductibles that they can't afford to use their medical coverage, you know, and yet we spend that much money. Now, when you look at the rest of the civilized countries in the world, now these are, you know, doing this with state intervention, you know, so just, we should keep that in mind, that the state, although we're against it, we should look at a country like Japan, who, you know, they cover everybody, $2,000, you know, half. Doesn't that sound crazy to you, that they could cover everybody? And remember, we rank like 37th in the world as far as our medical system. Okay, these countries, if you go down and look at the average is right around in the $2,000 range for these countries that cover everybody. Norway, Germany, Belgium, on and on and on. You know, and they even get lower. I don't know if I see. Do I see Canada up here? Canada, $2,500. You know, you get the point. I mean, they're spending. Think about that. I mean, they're spending half and covering everybody. That just seems like a no-brainer. Okay. I mean, you know, we can argue about state intervention, but the fact remains. See, when you talk about private versus public, again, I'll put these links in, but I really want you to read this article. There was a study done on this, basically, that compared private versus Medicare. And here's the abstract, what it says. Many policymakers have called for the remodeling of Medicare to more closely resemble private insurance, which is often assumed to work better than public programs do. However, evidence from this 2001 survey demonstrates that Medicare beneficiaries are generally more satisfied with their health care than are persons under age 65 who are covered by private insurance. Medicare beneficiaries report fewer problems getting access to care, greater confidence about their access, and fewer instances of financial hardship as a result of medical bills. Making the program more like private insurance runs the risk of undermining a program that is working well from the perspective of beneficiaries. And there's a lot of evidence. I mean, we deregulated the energy industry in California, and it was a complete sham. If you look into the Enron thing, I mean, they just robbed California blind. We had rolling blackouts. It was a nightmare. And you can look in other countries like Argentina, Brazil, where these the Chicago model of deregulating everything. I mean, they had roads, like signs that were like MasterCard Drive and stuff. I mean, everything was deregulated. It was a complete nightmare. People lost access to electricity, water. I mean, these things have been practiced. They have been put into practice in various parts of the world, and they have not been beneficial to the mass population. And like I've shown, with state intervention, I mean, as much as we might not like it, we don't have a revolutionary force about to take over the state here. And it's this guns and butter argument. Right now they're spending the bulk of their money on guns. Okay, so maybe we could change that, and we could spend less on medical care as a society and cover everybody. Now, to me, that just sounds like a win-win situation. Imagine it was some bill you have, and you can cut it in half and get, like, I don't know, let's say 3 times as much for paying half, or do the math. I don't know, but the ethanol thing, I couldn't agree more. It should be a crime to take this corn. It's completely, it's a net energy loser. It takes more energy to produce the ethanol than it generates. It's a ridiculous idea. It'll never work, and it's just raising commodity prices on a number of different crops. And then you talked about private interactions. The problem I have, I have no problem with that. I mean, as a community, we need to do those things, but there has to be a realization there are individuals in our society that own the lion's share of things. I mean, most of us, we don't think about it, because we don't. And this is why I've done videos on the elite, because their wealth is so tremendous, so unimaginably large scale, that it's hard to understand what kind of impact they have on our society. There are just certain things that even unions, which are, like my carpenters union is fairly large, they can't compete against these large companies. I mean, they're just, they're multinational. I think we really have to understand the scale, the scope of what we're up against, and not to dismiss the importance of private interactions and solidarity and standing together in our communities against these onslaughts of forces. But there has to be a realization at the same time that there are forces outside of our control, that we just, are too large and of such a great magnitude that really, on a small scale, we really have little or no power against, unless we work to undermine those institutions, like corporations, which are illegitimate and should be dismantled. So I'll try to put the links in for Nationmaster, the Medicare Vs Private, and would you answer the question though? Just point blank. We have enough food. Can we feed everybody? We have enough homes. Can we house everybody? And the medical question, I mean, because right now we're stealing doctors from the third world, so but given the facts that we could probably half our spending on medical and cover everybody, would that be a viable option to you? Thank you. Oh, and always appreciate your videos, brother. Peace.